Welcome to Legends in Leadership, brought to you by ISF and the Carrington Group. Legends in Leadership is an inspirational podcast featuring the stories of leaders who are making a difference. Our goal is to inspire you with the stories of leaders who come from humble beginnings, overcome challenges, and ultimately rise up to make a difference in people's lives.
Hello, friends. This is Dr. Blair Ritchie. I'm the Executive Director of the International Student Foundation, and welcome to episode 66 of Legends in Leadership. With me today are my co-hosts from the Carrington Group, family officers Jason Smith and Tyler Tallman. Gentlemen, happy Thursday.
Good morning.
We are excited today to have a special guest, Cory Procter, who is former NFL football player. Always fun to have NFL friends on the show. And before we get to you, Cory, we have a little fun leadership challenge that we're going to throw out here. And we're inspired by stories of leaders who, like us, come from very humble beginnings, but they rise up and make a difference in the world. And so, Tyler, you're Mr. Trivia today. Is that right?
I am, and this is a good one. This has got a nice sports theme that I think is in great alignment with our guest today. My brother Brad, who's probably listening to the show, was a rugby player, played for the University of Oklahoma, and so he'll really like this as well. But on this very date, 25 years ago, this gentleman led the New Zealand All Black national team to an impressive triumph over heavily favored England in the 1995 World Cup. He was just 20 years old. This mountain of a man scored 4 tries for the Kiwis, prompting English captain Will Carling to quip. He said he's a freak, and the sooner he goes away, the better. But our legendary leader did not go away, and he went on to the Hall of Fame to have a Hall of Fame career that was cut short by a severe kidney condition that eventually took his life at the age of 40. Our legend was a member of the Champions for Peace Club, a group of 54 famous elite athletes committed to serving peace in the world through sports. He's widely considered rugby's version of Muhammad Ali and Tiger Woods. So the question is, who is this legendary leader? And we'll come back at the close of today's program with the answer.
Wow. Okay. So we got a football player and a rugby question. That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Cory, did you play rugby?
No, I did not.
Good. Okay. All right. Well, good. Well, our guest today is Cory Procter, and I mentioned his football career, which actually goes all the way back to Gig Harbor High in the state of Washington. After graduating from high school, went on to play football at the University of Montana. Professionally, was signed as an undrafted free agent in 2005 by the Detroit Lions, picked up in November by our own Dallas Cowboys. And Cory went on to play for the Cowboys until May of 2010, was signed by former Dallas coach Bill Parcells in Miami, and was a Dolphin until a patellar tendon rupture in his left knee ended that career. But Cory is a proud husband and father. He and Megan have a daughter, Grace. And since the NFL, his career is over, he has opened up his own investment firm that serves players and former athletes as well, and is also a speaker on the national stage. Had the privilege of hearing Cory about a year and a half ago, and just really was inspired by his speaking work. It's his mission now to spread his story, his strength, and his experience to groups that desire to grow personally and spiritually. And I've seen that gift inspire others. And Cory, we're just delighted that you're with us today. Thanks for coming on board of Legends in Leadership.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys. I'm excited. I love getting in these conversations, so this will be really good, I'm sure.
Well, I'm dying to know, Gig Harbor High, what was the mascot at Gig Harbor?
Gig Harbor High School is an old fishing village, but the mascot is the Tides. like Roll Tide.
Oh, nice. So there you go. Do you guys play Squim High or anything like that up there? So
well, Squim that's an area up in Washington. We never played them. We played like Peninsula High School, the North, South, Central Kitsap schools.
cool.
Yeah, a bunch of those in that area.
I love the vacation up in the San Juan Islands, so I actually know a little bit about some of those places up there. So it's very cool. And so football was a big part of your life growing up, I take it. So talk about that growing up aspiration. When did professionals? I guess every kid who plays football dreams of a career that you got to pursue.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know if I ever had aspiration. I guess every kid thinks about the NFL potentially right now, and that would be cool, and just kind of a far off thought is all it was for me. But growing up, sports, and this is what turned out to be football because I was a big kid, but sports was an escape for me in a lot of ways because I came from a split family. My folks was about 8 or 9 years old when they sat all three of us boys. I'm middle of three. They sat us down and told us they were going to split. And so that was a hard place. So I ended up moving. We moved back and forth between mom and dad. And in a span of about 4 years, went to 7 different schools. And so, you're moving around a lot. Yeah. That's a hard place for a kid to be. And so, I get an invite to play sports, did some little league sports, one time tried soccer, that didn't work. But or T-ball, when you strike out hitting the tee, that's not a very good indicator of that future. So, we tried a few different things, but football ended up being a thing because I was a big body, and I remember the first time that a coach gave me some sort of positive reinforcement for my effort was like candy to me, and especially when I was dealing with stuff at home and I don't know how to walk through that mess as a kid. Not many do. I wasn't mature enough to handle much of that. So I dove pretty deep into a bag of Doritos, right? So I didn't have a whole lot of friends, but when I got invited to play, that ended up being a big family for me. And so it was an environment where you could foster a whole lot of great characteristics. And so those coaches ended up being huge father figures to me. And I actually had 2 of my wrestling coaches pass away this last year. One of them was my freshman high school coach, and it was a short little Greek dude. Most of what he talked about made no sense, but he could tell. I remember there were times where I'd come in during high school, and I remember one time during winter break for wrestling, where he could just tell holidays were hard time. They were good. I love holidays, but they were hard times. And I remember it was that winter break coming into Christmas that he could tell something was wrong. And he just took me in his office and just talked about it. And so anyways, those guys ended up being huge father figures in my life that could speak into me, could lift me up. They see a whole lot of potential, and they didn't do it just for me. There's a lot of other kids who got that, but that was critical in the foundational elements of my life and what I've been able to do since then.
Yeah, the influence of coaching is one of those things especially when your family's a bit dysfunctional, you kind of find that. So growing up in that environment, talk a little bit about the steps that led you to the NFL. How did that NFL career open up to you?
So, it started out as an effort, which is actually a conversation I love having with parents, because I get a lot of questions like, hey, how do I get my kid more aggressive? And I was like, focus on his effort, reinforce his effort, because aggression will come later in life or later down the road. Mine didn't show up till junior year of high school. So I was just a big kid who worked hard, and I wanted that pat on the back. But sophomore year, I was a big kid, worked hard. I started getting letters from colleges and started getting some attention. And actually, I remember my head coach came in with my stepdad with another player one night, and he just kind of had to talk with us that you guys have the potential at playing the next level. And so he kind of planted that seed a little bit. And so, we start working through, ended up having my knee scoped my senior year. So a lot of D1 interest fell off, and a lot of the Big Sky programs came into the picture. And that's where Montana came in. And so that's where, all right, now I'm getting recruited, and these guys are pitching me coming to play for them. And that's where, like, all right, the visualization is becoming real to me. And that's where I get really excited. So I go through the whole selection process and pick Montana out of it, which ended up being an awesome place. And so it was freshman year. I started 5 games, and we had some guys that were getting some looks from the league. And I went to the pro day, which is really kind of the seed planter of these guys are getting looks. Man, I wonder when it's my senior year if I could be getting those same kind of looks. And that started happening senior year of college. When they come into training camp, they come start checking how this guy's doing, or how he moves, or how he plays, or lots of different characteristics they dive into. But but now I'm getting recruited by agents to, hey, pick me to represent you. And I got several calls from them, but it only ended up being one guy who wanted to deal with me. So, but all it takes is one, man. But those are kind of like small seeds that started happening. But I mean, it came from this huge effort place and a great building place. That a lot of those people contributed into my life, and so went undrafted. But that was, they projected me as high as a 6th round potentially. But I was coming in. These are all new experiences to me. I didn't have high expectations. I wanted to compete. I wanted to go in and do these things, but I didn't have an expectation of myself to go kill it, by any stretch. And I just wanted a shot to play. I think that'd be pretty cool. And so I think that was a good mindset to have, because I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to go swing the bat, and that's it. And if it doesn't work out, I'll go do something else. And I think a lot of guys hang their hat on doing one specific thing, which I'm all about burning the ships. I love that. But when you hang your hat on somebody else's decision, you're hanging your hat on a whole lot of potential heartache when it doesn't happen too. And so I'll control what I control. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, two-part question for you. I'm a new dad, just a couple months old. My son Luke, and I'm always looking for parent advice, stuff that you can write down. And I found what you said there interesting about effort and really focusing on effort with kids. So I'm curious, number one, what exactly are you telling parents about effort? And then number two, do you feel like that effort, where is that, I guess, said a different way, where has effort really kind of bled over into the rest of your leadership in the NFL, but outside of the NFL? Do you feel like that's kind of the core component, is it's just those that work the hardest, put the most effort in, win, or what does that look like to you?
That's a couple different factors, right? I mean, effort is pretty broad in general to talk to somebody about, but if you want to break it down to a couple things, effort is not what gets people. It gets a lot of people to a lot of good places, but it doesn't get them to the end result. Right? We got a lot of awesome workers in this nation that just sit here and pedal a bike and don't get anywhere financially or make it to next levels in the job or whatever. So when you define effort, you got to define a couple aspects of it. And one, I would say focus. Like where is your focus, your effort, where your energy that you're pouring into something? Are you focused on it? Because if I'm just, you guys, if I'm having this conversation with you guys right now, but I'm sitting here staring out the window, and I'm 4 joggers go by, and I'm staring at what they're wearing. My focus isn't there, so I'm not pouring the energy. So it's not really worth the conversation. We're not soaking out of it what we can get. And so focus is a huge piece. If I can teach a kid, which is hard for kids, right? This is a learned behavior. This isn't something where kids just get out the gate. Anybody who has a kid, 2 seconds can realize this. But if I can get this kid conditioning to this focusing for short incremental periods of time, and you start lengthening that out, you'll start seeing a lot bigger return and a lot more soak out of the sponge, if you will, and what they're getting out of the current activity. And there was a second part I was thinking about when you said that. For as far as effort goes, is focus, and then you made me think about it. Now I'm drifting off on it, but
no worries.
That's a big place that I would start is that focus, and in that effort, where's your plan? Right? 'Cause a lot of people have zero plans, so they don't know where it's going to end up. And so if you can articulate what your plan is every single day, and you sit here and you're able to chip at it incrementally, that's going to add up to a big macro level. And that's where a lot of people get frustrated. I think
it'd be an interesting blended conversation with you, but working with a lot of business owners and families in the work that we do at the Carrington level, we very much work from the adage of beginning with the end in mind. And so when you talk about a plan and the importance of really getting clarity and perspective on what you really want the end game to look like, then all the effort that you put forth is now focused, right? Because it's focused towards an actual plan versus just a bunch of effort towards maybe a mapless effort. We have no direction that we're really headed with it. So interesting stuff.
Well, and that's probably another aspect of it is when you articulate the plan, you can start unfolding where your best rate of return is, right? And so, and when you start changing the perspective, I love talking with new guys coming into sports. Like, you'll get a lot of these types of situations, like coach doesn't get me, right? I should be starting. I'm better than that guy. And this happens in the job, right? You see somebody who gets a promotion over you, right? Or the job that you think is yours. Well, they were just given that job over you, or whatever's happening, and you get kind of ticked off. Well, there's a reason that your boss or that coach is looking at this other person specifically. Well, if I know this is where I got to go, I got to be in line with the guy who's above me, right? So if the coach has got to know I'm on his team, or your boss has got to know I'm on your team. And I would tell you this: a coach has been coaching 30 plus years, could count on one hand how many times a player has come into his office and had this kind of conversation with him where he says, Coach, man, I want to start. I want to be your guy. Or even an employee that comes into an employer and said, listen, I want to go kill it for you, and I want to make an awesome salary. I want to make an awesome amount of money for my family and just go wreck shop. How do we do that? I know I got to be on your side to do this. What do you see in me that is going to be the fastest route to that? And then you guys both map out a plan. All of a sudden, you've created a unity between you and your boss that they instantly want you to win for. And so a lot of people don't get that. Instead, they let the situation happen to them instead of going to the situation and trying to develop themselves.
That brings up, for me, one of the things I hear and one of the things I miss most about playing sports is that locker room feel, and just the sense of a group of people all working together. And you see when it goes wrong, just very talented people sort of get squeezed out of situations for not being able to integrate with that locker room feel. So I'm curious for our entrepreneurs and business leaders, if there are a couple of aspects that you could point out that help create that locker room brotherhood mentality amongst people that can translate from the locker room into the business team environment.
The biggest, most practical is spend time together outside of work. We work all day long. We can talk work all day long, but if I don't know about you and your family and what drives you, we're not going to have as near as a sharp as relationship or as a deep as relationship. If I, we've been working together 5 years, but I just find out that you have kids and a wife.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of situations like that, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of bosses at work like that that are very driving and results oriented, which, hey, I am too. I want performance, absolutely, but you got to understand what drives performance. At the end of the day, you're fighting absolutely because you want to get paid. But why do you want to get paid? Well, you're trying to create a better life for yourself and your family or other people that are a part of that. And if you can break that down, which a lot of people don't, a lot of bosses don't, I can understand what drives you. And look, if you had not to cuss, but if you had a dick of a dad who used to beat you and cuss at you all the time, how do you think you're going to respond to that if your boss is doing that to you?
Right.
And this is where, a lot of guys want to get stuck in certain ways, but not everybody operates the same. And same way happens too is two things. I remember this was who's the old Eagles coach, Dick Vermeil, right? He's talking about you bust your butt to find good people, and you bust your butt to keep them.
Yeah.
Because other people see those good people performing and they want them, and they become
Absolutely.
extremely valuable. And so if I'm a boss and I find somebody good like that, I want to fight to keep them. That includes the paycheck.
Yeah.
So it's you find awesome people. I would much rather have a team of 5 who are covering a whole span of sales for the nation that are just slaying it, and I'm paying them out the nose to do it, than 50 people that are doing a mediocre job.
It's interesting too, Cory. In a lot of conversations with business leaders right now, the whole COVID pandemic and everything that it's caused with furloughs and layoffs, it's been very interesting to hear the perspective of business leaders that are now replacing maybe 1, 2, or 3 employees now with one higher level, higher performing person, because now they're available, because unfortunately the fat had to get trimmed in a lot of these businesses, or the business shut down. And so the availability of incredible talent is out there. And to your point exactly, they would much rather have 5 all-stars, 5 high-performing individuals on their team than 20 to 25 people that may or may not be performing at their highest level on a daily basis. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, I think the situation is cut even beyond the fat, into some of those top performers. And for whatever reason, the business just couldn't keep those around, couldn't keep those folks employed. So yeah, there's some incredibly talented people right now looking for that next opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what I love about it, okay, this situation, some timing is a bad deal. The XFL just came into a real bad timing, right?
Mm-hmm.
That sucks. And some people are finding themselves in that boat. And that's just, you can't help explain that very much, but it sucks. And you're like, hey, keep pounding. But there's another portion of it, which is exactly the trimming of the fat. People either get let go or promoted, because I'm in financial advisory as an independent advisory. And so I've had a flood of new clients during this time, people that have been killing it, people that got laid off, and other people who are just, had an imbalance in their portfolio. But what's cool about it is I love the people who just came out of a potential failure position where they feel like it's a failure position. Like, I got fired, I got laid off, or even if it's coming out like marriages issues are a problem right now, right? Where he's forced to stay home or can't work. And we're like, you come out of a failed marriage, and I love presenting the question. I'm like, all right, what happened? And usually it's the blame the other side. Well, okay, well, what did you do to fix it? Right. Or all right, what did you not like about the other person? What did you not like about the job? Or what did they do to tick you off? Right. Or what are you going to change to make sure that doesn't happen again? And so, so many people will take, there's a reason you're supposed to, there's something you're supposed to take out of that. Right. And if you don't have any personal revelation, there's nothing that you're going to ever bring to the table for anybody else that's going to be of any sort of weight or value if you don't have it personally in yourself. If I haven't walked through making a budget, I can't tell anybody else how to do it. And so this is where this is a good thing, because bad times, you get let go, or heavy times, or a bad situation, whatever, it's supposed to sit on you heavy because you're supposed to learn from it. Mm-hmm. Versus, I like to trim the fat too, because listen, it makes the people who are legitimate in that area that much bigger.
Yeah.
And I want to reward those people who are just slayers and doing the right things that maybe have been on the cusp for so long, just trying to make a breakthrough, and then they finally get it. So,
Cory, your story has both the triumph side and the tragedy side to it, and how that has shaped you into the man you are today. For those of our listeners on the triumph side, talk about that side. And for some of our listeners on the tragedy side, talk about that side of your journey.
Well, I tell you, I don't think you can start with the triumph without starting with the tragedy. I think there's so many times where we get our wings clipped, or we have to go through some sort of test to get a testimony, right? We have to go through some hard times to build up some sort of resolve or resume. to be able to read off to somebody else, to say, look what I've been through. And so you can speak to your demons with that. And I'll tell you, I don't think, my faith is a huge reason I can look back on some of these things and have these revelatory moments myself. But, we've had some tough things. After football ended, I ruptured my patellar tendon, ended up having a whole lot of surgeries after that. And it was the end. I tried to come back. It just didn't happen. And it's a pretty lonely place when your identity is in a certain area for the majority of your life. And that area says, we don't want you anymore.
Yeah.
That hurts. And it's not like, hey, I'll just go get another job. This is the whole industry that says we're good. We don't want you. And so that's a lot of rejection that guys will feel. And that's what I had. Right. So I come through that trying to figure out who the heck I'm supposed to be now. And then kind of the dagger on top was I'm middle of three boys. My younger brother, Casey, and his wife ended up losing their son to cancer. And so we go through that. And even in that fight, it was right before his second birthday that we lost him. But during that, it was about a 7 or 8 month ordeal right after his first birthday when it was diagnosed and when they found it to that time frame when we lost him. But during that time frame, our daughter was born. And the first time they met was at St. Jude when we got the final news to just take him home. And I tell you what, there's a whole lot that goes through your head, and a lot of emotion, a lot of anger. And so where we went was a real big FU to God, and which is understandable from a lot of people, and I get it. And so when it ended up happening, we ended up getting an invite to church. I ended up having a vision of my nephew, and it was totally a powerful moment for me while I'm holding my girl, and ended up getting in a relationship with my faith. And without getting too preachy on you guys, but getting in a relationship with my maker, essentially, and understanding what his purpose, and having this conversation and this building of faith that was able to take my characteristics that I've gotten from football and from all these good sources that and experiences, take this and all of a sudden flip the switch over to, I'm going to make you a leader now. I'm going to put you into a big spot. And so through that persevering time frame, through that transformational time frame, perspective building time frame, I've been able to flip the switch in a whole lot different areas of my life. And so all of a sudden, I came from a place where I was like, big middle finger up. I'm going to handle this myself. I'll take the world on, which part of me still respects. But I flipped from that to the first time I read my first scripture that ever hit me in my life was Proverbs 3:5, trust in the Lord with all your heart and soul, lean not on your own understanding. And it was the first time he kind of punched me in the mouth and said, stop trying to control it. So like you guys know, we're powerful in our own respect. We have an active partnership in this life to make things happen for ourselves. Absolutely. But I can't control everything. I can't even control my wife. Right? Try doing that if you're married. But I can't control my kids, but I can have a strong influence on them. I can have a major influence on them, but I can't control them. And the thing is when you kind of release control of all those outliers, you start operating in a totally different fashion. Mm-hmm. And so because of that, I've let that control off mine. It's not on me anymore. So now I can operate in a totally different fashion, and my focus can go a whole lot more laser targeted. And because of that, I've been able to come out of that tragedy into a huge triumph. And so what's happened for me is because that perspective has changed, man, I've been able to see times where I was a jerk and I could apologize to my wife or apologize to my family for times that I was a jerk. And all of a sudden I would see a hard relationship take a 180 and things were fixed. So cracks in our families that had turned to craters all of a sudden smoothed over, and I got relationships with my brothers and tough things like our marriage, things that weren't identified, clear expectations were identified, and now we could go attack, and there's vision in our family. We can go get after that, right? And so now we have clear-cut goals where my wife and I can partner together in that, and it's not just some frivolous thing. We don't know in general what we're going after. This is a problem a lot of people have, is they don't know what the foundation they stand on is. And so what's so cool about it is you start creeping in that mentality is the triumph that comes in is now I have a faith and a chest about me that was never there before, even in football playing in the NFL. This is what's cool, even to the point where our son was born. We had a second, his name's Hank. All right. It's awesome. But, which is actually a derivative of John, my dad's name, which is a direct link to Evan, who's my nephew who passed away. It stands for God is gracious. And so Hank was born December 5th. And on December 6th, my older brother comes to me, tells me he's got non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So now he's got a cancer fight he's going to have to do. He's lost his hair, that whole bit. Well, what's cool is in those situations, you guys know so many times you deflate. You don't have the words. I don't know what to say. Well, here's what's cool is when I got in tandem with my faith and I realized all of a sudden I have a different chest about me. I said, all right, man, I hear a story, hear the steps. What's next? What's going on? What's the information? And before we hang up the phone, I said, all right, are you cool if I pray for this? And he goes, yeah, absolutely. Nobody says no to that. Everybody wants something good. Yeah. And I'm like, all right, this is the deal. And from what I've learned from being a huge consumer, not just scripturally, but books, TED Talks, podcasts, everything I could possibly get my hands on, all that starts pouring out, just like how we're having this conversation. And so all of a sudden I'm like, all right, God, I know we can't control this situation right now. I know we don't have this. So we're putting the trust in you, putting trust in the walk. We're going to walk by faith, not by sight, because we know you're behind this. And no matter what happens, we're going to keep walking in our own convictions and our own foundation. And we're going to have the attitude that we want to have. And we're going to make sure we're leaders for our family. And I tell you what, when you bring that kind of spirit into the conversation, the triumph that comes out of it is totally different.
Yeah. Powerful.
Terrific.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Well, that's such a great story, and I want to encourage our listeners, if you're looking for a motivational experience, Cory, how can I get in touch with you about just seriously sharing that journey with you?
You get CoryProcter.com or social media at Cory Procter on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and I love talking with everybody. So shoot me a message and come beat the bush.
So all of our Dallas Cowboy fans are really ticked at us right now because we haven't asked you, okay, give us a Dallas Cowboy story. So favorite coach, favorite player, do us something so I get my Cowboy fans off my case, all right?
Oh, shoot. There's lots of good stuff. I got a lot of good buddies that I played with, right? And so it's kind of wild to see Witten, who's 100 years old, still playing right now. But I mean, a good story that I love that has been impactful to me that I did not realize that I was walking through was we had our starting five in 2007. Wade Phillips, his second year, 2008. It was his second year into his head coaching job here. And our starting left guard, Kyle Kosher, goes down in the third preseason game with an ankle injury, needs surgery, out 8 weeks. And I had been primarily the backup guard and center at that time. Tony Sperano, who was our O-line coach, went to Miami, and now we had Hudson Houck. And who I love Hud. Hud is a great guy. And so I kind of got over the screaming and yelling coach after so long, and I could talk straight with Hud, and he was cool. But what was funny was, all right, the next day after that game, we come out for walkthroughs, and he's talking to two other guys, Pat McQuiston and Joe Berger. Great guys who for this left guard spot. Well, same thing we're talking about earlier, right? You see somebody else getting the conversation for the job that you think is yours. All those emotions start flooding in, and I start getting ticked off a little bit. Well, the norm, right, is to walk away, or coach doesn't know me, doesn't know this, and I'm going to go find somebody to complain with. Well, thankfully, whoever planted this characteristic in me couldn't stand that. And you want to fix a problem, or you got a brother with a problem, go to your brother, right? Go to the problem and go fix it head on. And so I went and showered up. I decided to go talk to Coach, went into his office and knocked on the door. And I just said, hey, Coach, sat across from him like this. And I said, I think that left guard spot is mine. And he sits back. What are you talking about, Cory? And I go, well, I've been left guard. I came in, I was a guard primarily before this. I go, but listen, I've been the backup swing guy for this whole time. I want a shot at that. I feel like it's mine. And he just kind of nods. He goes, well, you're my backup center. If you get hurt at guard, who's going to be my backup center? I go, well, all due respect, I'm not going to get hurt, which we know is a lie, right? I can't predict that. But he just kind of nods. He goes, all right, well, let me talk to Coach. And we're going to try these other guys out, but let me talk to Coach. I said, all right, cool. And we leave. We go through the fourth preseason game against Minnesota. The other two guys get majority of the snaps. I play the whole game at center with the exception of 6 snaps, like at the end of the game at left guard. And so we go through cuts that weekend. We're playing against the Cleveland Browns to open up 2008. And that next Monday morning, we come out for practice. Wade Phillips walks down to the field, and he tells me, hey, Cory, you're going to start this weekend against Cleveland. And I'm like, that's right. I'm going to start. And all of a sudden, I get the lightning bolt of fear, right, that rolls down. Is that now I got to back up what I said I was going to do in the first place. But what was so cool about it is I ended up starting 12 games. I played in them all and put a whole lot more money pay to play in my pocket and a whole lot more film out for the rest of the league to see me. And it's cool because if I had never gone in and talked to Coach about that situation, now I did it respectfully. I didn't come in demanding anything, right? But if I hadn't gone talk to Coach about that, I might not have ever saw that playing time. And I think of this, and I say this is just because it's a cool thing. It was a revelatory piece to me because when you think of those types of situations, you realize the capability that you have as one individual to come in and change the scope of any situation. And I know I can walk in a pair of shorts, and a t-shirt, which I'm in right now, into a room of suits, and I can have an impact by the words that are coming to my mouth and the presence that I walk in the door with. And I love the Cowboys. Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones. I was at the combine before this COVID shut everything down, and I walked in Indianapolis, and I walked upstairs in Prime Steakhouse because the bus was outside just to say hi. And Stephen Jones is the first guy to say, Proc. Well, first off, everybody who saw me goes, oh, shit. Sorry. The cuss again, but they're like, oh, not this guy. But Stephen Jones, just because I know everybody, but Stephen was the first guy. I said, Proc, what are you doing? Pulls out a chair. He says, come sit down. Tell me what's up. And I'm like, so for the Cowboys fans, I love this organization. They get a lot of scrutiny over a lot of different things, but these guys are a class act in everything they do. And what I love about it is they stand for what they believe in. And they listen to their guys. They have a great mix, but it's a powerful place to be. And I'm thankful to have been there.
Well, thank you, Cory, for taking some time out today to share your story. It's been fun. We just touched the surface. We need to do this again, guys. So Tyler, let me go back to you, and let's wrap up with our trivia, okay?
Yeah, he was. This gentleman was widely considered rugby's version of Muhammad Ali and Tiger Woods. Cory, you got any guesses?
Muhammad Al Woods.
Dang, he got it.
Oh my gosh. No, funny guy. That's a dad joke right there. I'm gonna have to give you
That's very good.
The answer is Jonah Lemieux. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah,
Jonah Lemieux. Yeah. So
and Kyle's not here. Did Kyle play rugby?
He sure did. And I should have called out. My brother Brad played rugby with Kyle, one of our partners here at the Carrington Group, and also a host of Legends in Leadership. They
they're big rugby fans, and I love it. He's a freak, and the sooner he goes away, the better. You know,
there you go.
put the effort and aggression forward, right?
There you go. Well, guys, thanks again, Cory, for being with us. This is a wrap for today, episode 66. And before we go, I just want to remind everyone these words. If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, then you are the leader. Have a great day.
Legends in Leadership is brought to you by the Carrington Group. Carrington Group is a family office with a passion for helping business leaders and their families make smart choices and fulfill their highest aspirations. To learn more about the Carrington Group, visit their website at www.carringtonfo.com or Google Carrington Group, Dallas, Texas. ISF is committed to leadership development for aged-out foster care and orphaned youth. ISF's mission is to transform these youth into tomorrow's leaders with scholarships, mentoring, and leadership training. To learn more about ISF, visit their website at isfsite.org or Google International Student Foundation to learn more.
Securities offered through Regulus Advisors, LLC. Member FINRA/SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Regal Investment Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Regulus Advisors and Regal Investment Advisors are affiliated entities. Carrington Group and this broadcast are independent of Regulus Advisors and Regal Investment Advisors.